Turkiye's foreign minister says Israel must stop its regular violations of the US brokered ceasefire in Gaza and allow humanitarian aid into the Strip. Top diplomats from several Arab and Muslim nations are meeting today in Istanbul. Hakan Fidan says countries are still working on the UN mandate for an international stabilization force in Gaza, and they will decide whether to send soldiers based on it. The Turkish top diplomat says his country wants to see a post-war framework for Gaza in which Palestinians ensure Palestine's governance and security.
The issue of Palestine and its definition that has been accepted and adapted must not change. In the end, we are talking about the geography of 1967 borders, the state of Palestine with a two-state solution to be implemented. After this, the Palestinian issue has been defined within this context in international law. Israel never agreed on this, and it never had any intention to approve this. But the international society has based its opinion on this understanding, and this is our perspective.
Let's go straight to Sinem Koseoglu, who is live for us in Istanbul. Sinem, so that meeting of Arab and Muslim diplomats wrapping up in the last hour or so, what more came out of the conference?
Well, Malin, for today's meeting, the countries foreign minister who attended are from Jordan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Turkiye. Egypt was also on the list, but due to some calendar events and important meeting, as Foreign Minister Fidan said, the Egyptian foreign minister wasn't able to attend in Istanbul talks today. What came out of the meeting is the biggest question today, but today's meeting was actually designed to focus on elaborating on what are we up to. Okay, we held a meeting, our leaders held a meeting with US President Donald Trump in New York, and then there was the Cairo agreement. What are we up to? How far were we able to reach? But apparently, as per Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, not much has changed except for a fragile ceasefire. He mentioned that they want to make sure that ceasefire holds and there is no return to the genocide committed by Israel. And he mentioned that Israel is regularly violating the ceasefire. This must be stopped, and the aid delivery, as per agreed on the plan, isn't reaching to the Gazans, and humanitarian and medical aid delivery must sure reach to Gazan people. This is what he said.
And Sinem, did we get any more details about this international stability force which is going to be sent to Gaza? Did we hear anything more about which countries will be participating in that force and what exactly its mandate is going to be?
Nothing is clear about that because they are waiting for the United Nations Security Council to define the definition of this stabilization force, and all members, all parties who want to send troops to this task force, to the stabilization force, they all want to see the content, the definition of the stabilization force. Minister Hakan Fidan, Turkish foreign minister, who represented all the foreign ministers today in Istanbul, he mentioned that everybody is trying to do their best. Everybody is trying to take a burden on the shoulders, but that definition has to be clear. Also, on the other hand, it's a very controversial topic, especially in Turkey as well, because Turkish Defense Ministry, Turkish army, Turkish officials, they always underline that Turkey is ready to send troops. However, we always hear from the Israeli officials, the latest one came from the Israeli defense minister, that Turkish troops should never be allowed in that task force, neither in as a peacekeeping force or as a monitoring force in Gaza. So Jordan, Pakistan, who have strong, these are the countries that have strong military, Egypt, they all want to see what the United Nations Security Council is going to define in the terms of stabilization force, and they want to do their best for the people of Gaza. Back to you.
OK, Sinem, thank you for that. Sinem Koseoglu there with the latest from Istanbul. I want to discuss this further with Miroslav Zafirov. He is in Abu Dhabi. He's a former senior political advisor for the UN Special Coordinator's Office for the Middle East Peace Process. I appreciate you joining us on the programme. So, firstly, this meeting in Istanbul, do you think it's a little premature to discuss a Gaza stabilisation force when phase one of the ceasefire isn't even being met? We have the Rafah crossing, which remains closed. We have aid being blocked. And, of course, attacks on civilians continue daily.
Yeah, I think, above all, this conference is showing clearly the intention of key countries and countries who have currently decided to enter the scene of this crisis in Gaza. So that meeting is kind of trying to show the eagerness of those countries to present and to offer a formula for getting out of that cycle that we are witnessing for the last 2 years. Unfortunately, as you have said, there are too many elements of the proposal for peace that remain unanswered. The first one of these elements, which is exceptionally important, is the element of legitimacy. Whatever ceasefire is going to take place, and however this ceasefire will continue to be present one way or another, with all these difficulties that you have outlined, that ceasefire has to have some framework, some framework that stems from out of the international law. And the ISF, this International Stabilization Force itself, that has been in the focus of the discussion today in Istanbul, is one of the elements, one of the key elements of this comprehensive peace plan that has been presented by the Americans. But that ISF force requires to exist and function under very clear standards of the international law.
Yeah, on that point, we heard the Turkish foreign minister mention that countries are working on a UN mandate for this force. What does that process involve, and how likely is it to succeed?
Well, it will involve a lot of discussions and a lot of debates inside the only platform that possibly should exist for such discussions, which is the United Nations. I know that the United Nations isn't the most favorable platform lately for many countries and for many players, especially in the Middle East, but it still remains the one that will stamp any decision and will make it legitimate. So we should not walk away from using the UN as a tool. In any case, we are going to be debating around the mandate of the stabilization force using the previous examples that exist in various parts of the world, such as Bosnia, such as countries in Africa. We will be trying to, most likely, we'll be trying to find this golden cut and we will make, like, those who will be willing to participate in this stabilization force will be willing to find the acceptable formula. Now, that acceptable formula, nevertheless, given the details of what Gaza is actually, requires the compromise and the approval of the key elements that have been part of this crisis, one of which is Israel. And if I am not mistaken, you have mentioned that Israel has a special opinion about certain countries being part of this international stabilization force.
Particularly Turkiye.
So it's Turkiye, yes, but I believe that there are also other countries that may attract the attention of the Israeli lawyers, specifically on how these countries will be part of this stabilization force. But again, let me try and saying something very important. Whatever happens in Gaza, whatever we are discussing in Gaza, it will be just an exercise of us discussing elements of a bigger picture that, for some reason, many are trying to neglect. And that bigger picture is the picture that has to respond to a very, very serious question. And that's been the question that has been on the table since the beginning of this crisis and since the beginning of this war. What is the political framework? I would use the something. I will use a word that that is so much in conversion. It's became a cliche, but it's the day after. If we don't have a horizon, if we don't look at the horizon upon which the one that we shall focus on, how Gaza is going to look like. Is it Gaza going to be part of something bigger that has been set, the principles of which has been set in Oslo? Or is it Gaza going to be some semi-autonomous entity? That is the question. That is the key question before we try to set or write down the diagnosis and try to see how are we going to heal the patient.
Miroslav Zafirov, appreciate your time today. Former senior political advisor for the UN Special Coordinator's Office for the Middle East process.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.